today's video I will be discussing about a research proposal and how to write a good research proposal actually. And since I'm trained or I'm being trained in literature, that is to say humanities, my examples that I will be citing in this video will be mostly from English literature, and considering my literary background, considering my uh, professional background, that I am a PhD research scholar in the Department of English of Central University, South Bihar. So without much ado, let's begin the video. So the first slide that we have today is uh, that of how to write a good research proposal. And the first slide we have is what is a research proposal. So I have pointed out certain important things in this. A research proposal is a document written by a research aspirant to attend MPhil or PhD interview. That is, when a candidate approach to certain university or to some research committee for a vacant seat in PhD degree or PhD for a vacant PhD position, he or she is supposed to be carrying a written proposal, a written proposal, where he or she uh, will be demanded, will be actually required to write what she is planning to do, and based on that research proposal, his or her candidature will be considered. That means, to speak practically, in today's time, universities give their admission notices, forms are being filled up, and then during the time of the interview, all the candidates have to be present there and face the interview with their prospective research proposals. So what is a research proposal? It is generally a document written by the research aspirant to attend the MPhil or PhD vivas. Now, it intends to project the research plan, research area, methods, etc. So, what will be the components of the research proposal? It will be the research plan, research area, methods, etc. Now we have the kind of a good research proposal should outline the entire research project in brief. In simpler words, the proposal will define your research plan, the way you want to accomplish it, and its usefulness. So here the way one word is dropped here. That is the way you want to accomplish it and its usefulness. So in the next slide we have that the basic elements in a research proposal. So suppose you are about to write a research proposal, then how will you form? What will be the general format of the research proposal? The first thing that will be there in the research proposal is the title. A title of your research project, intended research project actually. Then after the title will come the introduction. You will briefly introduce the area of your research. Then you have to attempt writing a brief review of literature. That means whatever that exists already in your domain, in the domain you want to work on. The next is the aims and objectives of the research. Why do you want to do that thing? What are your objectives? What is your purpose actually? Research questions. So what is it that you want to solve? What is the problem that you want to solve? What is the question? And methodology, the way you will be doing your research. What kind of data will you collect? How will you interpret them, etc. Then another important part, the bibliography. So I will discuss each of these important components of the research proposal separately in the following slides. The title. So first, the title has to be a very concise, catchy, and informative title, because it always is impressive. If your title is very much concise and it possesses that information, and at the same time it sounds very catchy, then it will surely impress the people. The next important point to be noted while writing the title, while selecting the title, it should include the keywords of the intended research. So your research project uh, will be having certain key terms, and it will be good if you can use those key terms in the title section. Then the subject of the research is to be clearly mentioned, upon which that investigation will be conducted. The next slide says the introduction, and what will be there in the introductory section of your research proposal. The first thing will be there is a mention the background information. So whatever background information is available, you have to put them. Then mention the topic area. The area of your research has to be put here. Now put the research questions. So that what are the problems, what are the questions that you ask in your research and you seek to solve. Those has to be written down. Mention what is the contribution of your research in the domain of that particular subject, and then finally you have to write in the introductory section that what kind of contribution is your research going to make in the whole repository of knowledge. The next slide says review of literature. It's a very important part of any proposal. That means review, that means reassessing, reviewing, rereading of literature, review of literature. So literature means, it doesn't mean that some poem or some novel. Literature means any existing documented knowledge. Any existing documented knowledge. That means you suppose you have to work on certain novels of Jane Austen. Then you have to carry out a thorough investigation of whatever work that are done on the works of Jane Austen by earlier researchers. So what already is known, that means whatever that has already been mentioned, whatever that has already been said about the works of Jane Austen, for example, you have to note them, you have to point them out, you have to highlight them, you have to investigate them, and then try to find some research gap. So only after you have read all the documented knowledge about Jane Austen, for example, then only you will be able to know what is yet to be said, what is not yet said. So that research gap has to be found out, and that gap you can fill by doing a research. Finding the research gap is more important to conduct any research. Now the relevance of the intended research is also to be justified by the review of literature. That means the panelists, the interviewers, the viva holders might be asking you questions. Why is your research so important? Why should we hire you to carry out the research? Why is your research so relevant? What do you think? Then this review of literature section, if you make it, will help you to justify your research ground, justify your topic of research. Because only after making a review of that research of that literature, you can come to any kind of objective understanding of the subject. Now, aim. Present the aim of your study. What do you want to do there? What is the purpose of your study? So then what do you want to hope to do with your research? So what is your prospective ideas? That means how do you plan to do that thing, or how will it contribute to the existing domain of knowledge? One important question. And another thing that you have to remember is that you just have to convince them that your research really is important and it really matters. The next slide will say research questions. Clearly state what do you want to investigate in your research. A research is indeed a question. All you have to do is to find an objective and a logical answer. For example, we can take what is the possible cause of distress in the pandemic situation. So it is a kind of research questions, though it is not from literature background, actually it is from medical background. Then what is the possible cause of this and that in a certain thing. So that is a research question, and its answer has to be found, and there should be a kind of predicted answer that we know as hypothesis, which I will be discussing in the next slide. Now hypothesis is a probable or possible or a predicted or a kind of a speculative answer to the research questions or the research problem. It is more like a predicted answer to some definite questions, like we cited the question of the earlier slide, that what is the possible cause of distress in pandemic situation. So there may be some hypothesis, like because people are not being able to get out of their houses, not join their offices, not do the daily works that it has been doing so long. So this might be the probable answer. So these probable answers will be the hypothesis. And then methodology is one of the most important part of the research proposal. That means the interviewers will be asking you, definitely will ask you that what are the methods that you seek to use in your research. So it will define the modes and methods in which research has to be carried out. Methods of sampling, that means what kind of novels are you selecting for your research. Then methods of analyzing of the data, what kind of methods do you want to use while analyzing the data. Do you want to make a kind of a discourse analysis, or you kind of make a textual analysis and all. Finally, the bibliography. The bibliography is one of the most important section, and these points I will just underscore that you have to acknowledge every single reference you make in your writings. You have to mention all the books after every chapter or at the end of the thesis. Generally, after the research, after you have written down the research proposal, it will be the last component of the research proposal. Mention all the online sources, not only books or newspapers, but whatever details that you get, whatever uh, data you find over the internet, you have to cite them properly with date of access, with the publication site, etc. If you do not mention clearly whose ideas you are quoting or using, you will be committing one of the most hated crimes in the academia, that is plagiarism. And plagiarism is nothing but stealing other people's ideas without giving them credit. Thank you.